Okay, good evening. Hope you're all doing well. Today we are learning Maseches Zevachim Daf Lamed Zayin and as well Maseches Zevachim Daf Lamed Ches and Aleph. Mirz Hashem will get up to about halfway down, a little bit more on Lamed Ches and Aleph, and then we'll spend a good chunk of time on Shabbos learning together. If I can pull off two blot, I will. On Shabbos, you can see that Lamed Tes and Beis is about 12 lines, which probably means it's impossible, but who are we kidding? But the next many blot are actually, at least aesthetically, they appear to be shorter. There's a movement, an anti-Israel movement called In Our Lifetime. Have you heard about this one? It's in a move. I feel that way about catching up in Zevachim. Like in our lifetime, we will get there. We've been behind for many weeks.
Somebody last night said, I must go learn. I'm 7 blocks.
Oh,
I feel so good about myself.
I don't even know what today's daf is. I have no idea. We're not that far off. No, we're like 4 or 5 blocks, but it's Lamed Tes. Yeah. And we're doing Lamed Ches. Oh, it's child's play. Come on. But of course, tomorrow's Erev Shabbos and Pashut. Hashem's going to make a new holiday with multiple Arvei Yomim Tovim before this coming Shabbos, Gam Zetov, Baruch Hashem. Okay, we're on the bottom of Lamed Vav Amud Beis. We're at the start of the new parak. We already learned the Mishnah, and there's a discussion here about how some korbanos could be yotzei. And if you just look just at the top line, because this is the shita we're going to analyze, the top line of the Mishnah says that Beis Shammai Omrim the kol hanistan al mizbeach hachitzon shenosim b'matana achas kiper. That if I'm doing zrika and it's on the outer mizbeach, as long as I do only one zrika, even only one zrika, I'm yotzei. So says the Gemara, 2 lines from the bottom, Tana Rabbanan. Minayin, from where do we know? L'nisnan al mizbeach hachitzon shenosnan b'matana achas shekiper. We're asking on Beis Shammai. We want to understand, how does he know that even though in general we require shtayim shehein arba, 2 sprinkles that are 4, how are 2 sprinkles 4? So I mentioned this yesterday. If you have a corner like this and you sprinkle on the corner, it hits both sides. Let's say the north and the east sides at the same time. So therefore, that's shtayim. That's 1, which is 2. And if you do it twice on all the corners, shtayim shehein arba. So that's the typical rule. And when we get to the next parak, Ezu Mekoman Shel Zevachim, which is a famous parak, because again, we say it before davening, so there we'll see that Arba Matanos is normal. That's normal. So then where does he get this heter from only doing 1 and being yotzei? 1 sprinkle.
Once?
No, just 1 sprinkle. We'll actually see that there's leftover blood. We'll see in a minute that there's leftover blood. But the Gemara wants to know, how do we know that with 1 zrika, it's considered to be sufficient for gaining kapara for whatever korban you're focused on? Maybe not a chatas. We'll discuss that later today. Talmud Lomar, v'dam zevachecha yishafech. The blood of your korbanos you should spill. Now, what about this indicates that only 1? Rashi deals with this on the last line. Rashi says yishafech, shvicha achas mashma mideloch siv saviv. Because it doesn't say to sprinkle saviv, the 4 corners. So you got, if that's the chiyuv, tell me what you want me to do. If you don't say saviv, we're medayik by absence. It's like how we learn the rif by omission. We're medayik by omission. So therefore over here, because the pasuk doesn't say saviv, so therefore we assume it's only 1. The Gemara is now going to present 3 questions on this. All 3 questions are the same, which is, hey, I thought you were using this pasuk for something else. The pasuk we used was V'dami zevachecha yishafech. Let's see all 3 questions in a row. Last line, V'hai lahacha hudasa. Are you saying that the pasuk of V'dam zevachecha yishafech is coming to teach me that if you do 1 matana that kiper? Is that true? After all, Haimi boile lichadetanya. We actually need that for a brisa. So says the Gemara on the top of Lamed Zayin and Aleph on the very top line. The Gemara says, how do we know that all of the blood, and David, this was really to your point, all of the extra blood after Zerika, how do we know shetu'unin matan dam liyasod, that the blood should be poured on the yasod? Says the Gemara, Talmud Lomar v'dam zevachecha yishafech. So what do we see? The pasuk that we tried to use for Beis Shammai to show us that 1 Zerika still has kapara is being used to teach me that the blood post-Zrika needs to be put on the Yesod. So how can you use the same pasuk in 2 locations? So says the Gemara, don't worry. The Tana of our Mishnah doesn't agree with that. Says the Gemara, Nafkale mida Rebbe. He actually says that we know that the blood that is extra, post-Zrika blood, we know that has to be poured on the Yesod from Rebbe. Let's see what Rebbe says. The Tanya, the Brisa reads, Rebbe Omer, and it's actually helpful to see the pasuk. The pasuk says over here, this is Vayikra Hey Tes, V'hizam midam hachatas al kir hamizbech, that you should take the blood of the chatas and put it on the wall of the mizbech. V'hanishar badam yimatze, and whatever is left of the blood. Oh, we see the word dam being used twice in the pasuk. That extra blood from this is talking about dam chatas is yimatze. Relax, Tzvi, get out. Tzvi, just your. Says the Gemara, yimatze, you should press the bird against the mizbeach, and more blood will come out. So the Gemara is medayik, that the Brisa, I should say, Rebbe is medayik, that because the pasuk says the word dam twice, unnecessarily, we already know the subject of the pasuk. You don't need to say dam twice. So because it says vanisha bedam yimatze, it says it twice. She'ein talmud lomar bedam. After all, umat talmud lomar bedam. Why do we have the extra word? Lefi shelo lamadnu ela lenisnin matan dalid shetuunin matan damim liyasod. Oh, that we have to do the dalid to the matan dalid really needs to be on the yesod sha'ar damim minayin. What about extra blood? And this really is the part of the brisa that we need. The author of our brisa doesn't agree to the previous brisa. The previous brisa taught us that the dam that goes on the mizbech, the extra dam that goes on the yesod, is learned from the dam Zevachecha yishafech. Says the Gemara, no, sha'ar damim minayin, 6 lines down. Talmud lomar v'ha nish'ar badam yimatzeh. And the Gemara gives the same exact expression again. In fact, according to some commentaries, this line is not found in the Gemara. It's a mistake. She'ein talmud lomar badam u'ma talmud lomar badam limit al kol hadamim, all the blood, even post zrika, even though you already have kapara. What do we do with the extra blood? Shetuunen matan damim liyasod, that all the extra blood has to be put on the yasod hamizbech. So we have our source that Beis Shammai said that we know that one zrika counts. Where do we know that from? From the dam zevachecha yishafech. Another brisa uses that pasuk to teach me that all the extra blood gets put on the yasod. How can you use that pasuk, Beis Shammai? Zogs the Gemara. No, Beis Shammai clearly holds like Rebbe, and Rebbe has a different pasuk, that's the double dam in the pasuk in Vayikra Hey Tes. So Vayikra Hey Tes, Vayikra Hey Tes, we have that extra dam in the pasuk, which indicates to us that the extra blood gets put on the yesod. Asked and answered. Question number 2, a quarter of the way down. Wait, even if you can wriggle your way out of that question, still, how can it be that the pasuk of Adam Zevachecha Yishafech is coming to teach me that a zrika is mechaper, even if it's a singular zrika? How can you say that? We need it for another brisa, a brisa that we learned many moons ago in Maseches Psachim. How do we know that if someone was supposed to do zrika, but instead of throwing the blood, they poured it? Very big difference, right? So zrika is zrika, you like splash it at the mizbeach, and shofech is you take a cup and you pour it. The maisim are very different. Minayin, how do we know that you're still yosei even if you only do shvicha? How do we know? Oh, Talmud lomar v'zam zvachecha hi shofech. Beis Shammai, you want to tell me that this pasuk is coming to teach me that nistin zrika achas, that it works? You yosei, you get kapara. How can you say that? That pasuk is used to teach me that shvicha and zrika are the same. So says the Gemara, it must be that savar law that Beis Shammai holds ki Rabbi Akiva. What does Rabbi Akiva hold? The Omar lo zrika bichlal shvicha, lo shvicha bichlal zrika. These two things are worlds apart. If you're supposed to do zrika and you don't do zrika, you're not yotze. If you're supposed to do zrika and you do shvicha, apples and oranges, nothing to even talk about. You're doing the wrong action, and therefore you're not yotze. If you're trying to put on tefillin and you said you pick up a lulav, you're not yotze. You don't get tefillin that way. It doesn't work. So that's what he holds. Ditnan. Where do we see this principle, according to Rabbi Akiva at least, that you can't mix and match, that if you're going to do zrika, then do zrika, but shvicha doesn't work? We actually learn it from a place that's not exactly the same. Beirach birkas HaPesach. Apparently, there was some type of bracha that was made when one were to bring the Korban Pesach. So if you make the bracha on the Korban Pesach, then the halacha is patar es shel zevach. Then the extra korban, a korban shlamim that was typically brought on Pesach, you don't need to make a new bracha on that korban. However, shel zevach, if you make the bracha on that shlamim, lo patar es ha-pesach divrei Rabbi Yishmael. So we see that one bracha can cover the other. A can cover B, but B can't cover A. What does Rabbi Akiva say? Nothing, not doing. He says, Omer lo zu poter zu, but lo zu poter zu. What do we see from Rabbi Akiva? Do it the right way or go home. Stop. The bracha is the bracha. You said the bracha on the wrong thing. Go away. This is not even, you're not close enough. It's not. Same thing back by our case. What had we said? If it's zrika and you do shvicha, you're not yotze. So we see Rabbi Akiva is replicating his shita. It's not such a great raya, if I'm just in my humble opinion. It doesn't seem exactly the same. One is a hilchos brachos issue, it seems to me, whether or not it's like bichlal, and that language of poteres is from like the mishnayos and brachos, like pas is not poteres as a parpar. Remember we learned those mishnayos? This seems like a hilchos. I don't understand the comparison in full. But anyways, the Gemara says that Rabbi Akiva Taka holds that we learn that this idea of lo zrika is bichlal shvicha, and it must be the Beis Shammai holds like Rabbi Akiva. You wanted to say Beis Shammai that you learned from Adam Zochecha Ishafech. How can you say that? Hooray! That pasuk comes to teach me that shvicha counts for zrika. He says no. Beis Shammai must hold like Rabbi Akiva. Doesn't hold like that. And just about halfway down on Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph, the Gemara says, I have a third question still. Now things are going to pick up a little bit. They're a little bit difficult to understand this brisa, so pay attention. Says the Gemara as follows. How can you use this pasuk to teach us that zrika achas is kiper? After all, we need that pasuk. We have a pasuk, and I'm going to start by reading the whole pasuk and translate as much of it as I can. Ach bechor shor, if you have a shor that's a bechor, o bechor kesef, if you have a kesef that's a bechor, o bechor eis, lo sifte, you should not redeem them, because when a bechor is born, kodesh heim, as damam tizrok ala mizbeach, you should throw their blood on the mizbeach, ves chelbam taktir, you should take their chelev and you should burn it on the mizbeach. It's a good smelling thing that goes to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. What's the theme of the pasuk? Seems like we're talking about animals that are bechor. We will soon see that that's a machlokas tanoim. Again, you can't translate from the St. James Bible. There's way too much going on beneath the surface. I've been approached by the evangelicals who tried to pull that on me, but they didn't speak Hebrew. They told me that Yashka was born from a virgin. I said, chapter and verse, please. They gave me the chapter and they gave me the verse. I had a Tanakh on my phone. Who knows Tanakh by heart? I mean, there are people, but I'm not one of them. I looked up the chapter and verse, and it said, Ha'alma. I said, you don't read Hebrew. It's not a virgin. An alma is a young woman. Mechatesi that she's a virgin. You just Pasha don't read Hebrew. You're reading a mistranslation. It's not the same thing. So I'll just say the same thing. If we read the Chumash and translate on our own, we're also wrong most of the time. Al pi pashtus. Not because we don't know how to translate Hebrew, but because Chazal had a lens into drushas that we just don't understand. So let's see this fascinating machlokes tanaim. What does the Brisa say? Rabbi Shmuel Omer, bitoch shene'emar ach bechor shor, o bechor kesev, o bechor eis, lamadnu lebechor shaton matan dam ve'emur in the gabe mizbeach. This pasuk is talking about a bechor, says Rabbi Shmuel. And one of the things we learn about this from the pasuk is that we saw in the pasuk that the dam has to go there and that the chalev has to go up there. So we see that the bechor in all three animals, in the shor, in the kesev, and in the eis, that they're taon matan damin. We saw in the pasuk dam has to be sprinkled, and ve'emurim legabe mizbeach, and its chalev needs to be burned on the mizbeach. Meiser upesach minayin. What we don't see in our pasuk is Meiser and Pesach. Where can we learn these things from? That by Meiser and Pesach that we need Zrikas Hadam and we need that their emurim go on the Mizbeach. Talmud Lomar, our pasuk, V'dam Zevachecha Yishafech. So according to Rabbi Shmuel, the Gemara says that that's where we learn that by Meiser and by Pesach that we need Zrikas Hadam and that the emurim have to go on the Mizbeach. The pasuk's talking about Bechor. Yes, but we also know that Meiser and Pesach have these halachos, but where do we learn them from? It's from our pasuk, Kasha on our Gemara that presented this as the pasuk for Beis Shammai. So says the Gemara, don't worry, Savar law, Beis Shammai must hold like the Baal Plugta, who argues with Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel held that Meiser and Pesach, we know that they have dam and haktara. The emurim have to be on maktar on the mizbeach from the dam zvachecha yishafech. Rabbi Yossi doesn't learn that way. He holds like Rabbi Yossi Aglili de Tanya. We're 3/4 of the way down on Lamed Zayin and Aleph. This brisa can be found in Maseches Psachim in multiple places. Rabbi Yossi Aglili Omer, Damolo Ne'emar, the pasuk in Bamidbar Yud Ches Yud Zayin, our pasuk about Bechor, it doesn't say damo in the singular, ella damam, plural. Chelbo lo ne'emar, ella chelbam. And if you have the pasuk, you can look and see these plural words. When the pasuk goes plural, it's expanding from Bechor to not only Bechor, but including even Meiser and Pesach. So Rabbi Yossi Aglili's drasha is that the plural aspects of the pasuk of Bechor are expanding the halachos of Bechor. By Bechor, we know we need Zrikas Hadam and the emurim are on the Mizbeach. You went plural? Okay, now I know that it applies not only to Bechor, but also to Meiser and to Pesach. That's what the Gemara says here. Limeid al Bechor, Meiser u Pesach, shatal matan dam ve'emurim legabe Mizbeach. Ask and answered. You wanted to know what about V'dam Zvachecha Yishafech? Beis Shammai must not hold like Rabbi Shmuel. He must hold like the drasha of Rabbi Yossi Haglili, who learns that the plural aspects of the pasuk include Meiser and Pesach, and he has no need for the pasuk of Adam Zvachecha Yishafech. It's therefore available to teach me that one zrika is in fact kosher on the mizbeach. Okay, that's the 3 questions asked and answered. Now we're going to start to dig into this last example a little bit. We, in theory, could have paused and said, okay, we have the sugya now, but there are some challenges within the brisa that we need to clarify. Umapik, sorry, that's not correct. Rabbi Shmuel, hai kra, mapik le lahachi, umapik le lahachi. It looks like he's using the pasuk in multiple ways. According to Rabbi Shmuel, on the one hand, he just told us that V'dam Zvachecha Yishafech teaches us about Meiser and Pesach, that it has matan damim and emurim al mizbeach. But he also has to understand our Mishnah, which seems to be that'll hold V'dam Zvachecha Yishafech. So how do we understand? We don't know which way to learn. The same problem that we had with Abaye, that the pasuk's being used in 2 ways. Rabbi Shmuel's talking out of both sides of his mouth. It's the pot calling the kettle black. You're trying to sit here and tell me that the pasuk's being used for something. You use it for 2 things. So the Gemara says, Trei Tana'e, Aliba Rabbi Shmuel. No problem. No problem. Machlokas in the Talmud. Says the Gemara 4 or 5 lines from the bottom. Bishlam Rabbi Shmuel, I can understand according to Rabbi Shmuel, who said that the whole pasuk demukim lakula b'bechor. Remember, he said that we don't learn Meiser and Pesach from Bechor. We learn it from Adam Zochecha Yishafech. The whole pasuk's talking about Bechor. Hainu dichsiv. That's why the pasuk says Udv'sarim yihyalach, that all of the basar goes to a kohen. That I understand. If the pasuk's talking about a Bechor, who gets the Bechor? The kohen gets the Bechor. Uvisaram, their meat, the meat of the Bechor, of the shore, kesev and ace, it all goes to the, no problem, it all goes to the kohen. But that's only if you understand the pasuk that way. And the Gemara asks a gorgeous question. 3 lines from the bottom on Lamed Zayin and Aleph. Ela Rabbi Yossi. But according to Rabbi Yossi, remember what Rabbi Yossi did when the pasuk went plural? Rabbi Yossi said that when it says chelbam and when it says damam, that teaches us that the pasuk's not only speaking about Bechor, that this pasuk in Bamidbar, which one is it? Bamidbar Yud Ches Yud Zayin about Bechor is talking about Bechor, Meiser, and Pesach. Now, if Rabbi Yossi holds that the plural aspects of the pasuk are expanding what the pasuk is talking about, that not only does Bechor require Zrikas Hadam and Emurim al Mizbeach, but so do Meiser and Pesach. If that's true, Demuki lo b'Meiser u Pesach, well, that's a problem because Meiser u Pesach bailim achleluhu. When it comes to Meiser and when it comes to Pesach, that doesn't go to the Kohen. Those are edible by the bailim. So when the pasuk in Bamidbar Yud Ches Yud Zayin says that it goes to the Kohanim, no, it doesn't. So Rabbi Yossi Aglili, if you understand this pasuk in a broader way, that it's not just talking about Dam, but it's also talking about Meiser and Pesach, then built into the pasuk is a problem, which is that Uvisaram Yihyalach, that the meat should go to the Kohen. That's only true by the Bechor. stira. How could Rabbi Yossi possibly understand the pasuk that way? Says the Gemara, no. Umayu v'saram yihyalach. What does it mean when it says v'saram yihyalach? So says the Gemara, that teaches us that as it relates only to a bechor, that echad tam ve'echad balmum, whether or not the animal is whole, without blemish, or it's a balmum, it has blemish, turning to the top of Lamed Zayin Lamed Beis, limeid al bechor balmum shenitim lekohen. We learned that a bechor that is a balmum, the Kohen still gets that animal. He can sell it, he can use it, he can't eat it, but it still goes to him. And says the Gemara, this is a chiddush dekadin. Shalom atzinu lo b'chol haTorah kula. We have no other place in halacha where a balmum goes to a Kohen. A bechor is a gift that goes to a Kohen. If it's edible, shecht it, eat it for dinner. If it's a balmum, keep it, sell it, take the cash, it's yours. Whatever the case may be. So that's how we get out of this issue with Rabbi Yossi Haglili's broader understanding of the pasuk. I have a Rabbi Yishmael. Where do you learn this from? That a balmum taka goes to a kohen? Says the Gemara. Nafkalei. He learns that bechor balmum is nitan lekohen mi lecha yihyeh. The seifa, because it says the words lecha yihyeh in the pasuk, and that's a pasuk in Bamidbar Yudches, the next pasuk. That's why it refers to it as the seifa pasuk, and it says at the end of the pasuk uchshok hayamin lecha yihyeh. That lecha yihyeh is not al pi pashtus, but rather to tell us that if there was a bechor balmum, that the din is that the bailim of the bechor still give the bechor balmum even to a kohen. Next, 3 lines down on Lamed Zayin Amud Beis. Bishlam the Rabbi Yossi Haglili. I could understand the sheet of Rabbi Yossi Haglili. Demukile nami b'maiser upesach. He learns that the pasuk of Bechor Shor and Bechor Kesef and Bechor Eiz is talking about both Bechor and Meiser and Pesach. Hainu dechsiv lo sifteki kodeshem. I could understand that though you can't redeem them, and therefore, if you take one of these 3 animals, either the Bechor, the Meiser, or the Pesach, heim kraven, the ein tmurasan kreva. That we got. You're not allowed to take a tmura of a Meiser and be makrivit. You're not allowed to take the tmura of a korban Pesach and be makrivit. Ditnan. Where do we see this idea reflected in the Mishnayos? Tumuras bechor umaiser. That's 2 out of 3. We'll have to get to Pesach in a second. Hein uvladon vivlad vladon. Their children and their grandchildren. Ad sof kol ha'olam. All of the descendants of these animals, says the Gemara, harei hein ki bechor umaiser. The halacha is that they're like the bechor, the parent. B'yochlu b'mum on the bailim, and they go even to the bailim. Says the Gemara. Utnan, we also have a halacha like this, that so we also have something like this about a tmura, that Amar Rabbi Yeshua, Shamati shetmuras Pesach kreva, utmuras Pesach enu kreva, ve'ein li lefarish. We're not going to go into the details here, but one of the things that we see here is that there are some restrictions about a tmura, even by a korban Pesach. So all of this is a little complicated, this piece, but what Rabbi Yossi Haglili is saying is that I understand if the pasuk is broad, that the pasuk by Bechor is talking about Bechor, Meiser, and Pesach, that all the halachos would be the same by Tmura. That I understand. But remember, Rabbi Shmuel held that the pasuk was only talking about Bechor, quarter of the way down. Elo the Rabbi Shmuel, Temuki le kule bebechor, who learned that the whole pasuk was only talking about Bechor. How does he know that Meiser Pesach de lo kreva tmurasan minale? How does he know that a tmura of a Meiser and a tmura of a korban Pesach is not karev? So says the Gemara, don't worry. Rabbi Shmuel has other Mara Makomos. Says the Gemara, 1/3 of the way down. Meiser Gamar Evra Mi Bechor. Let's see what those 2 psukim are talking about. Pasuk number 1 is Vayikra Chav Zayin Lamed Beis. V'chol Ma'asar Bakar Vatzon. All of the tithing of a bakar and so on, kol asher ya'avor tachas hashabed, anything that goes under the staff, ha'asiri yeh kodesh l'Hashem. So one pasuk we see the language of ya'avor. The next pasuk is Shmos Yud Gimel Yud Beis. V'ha'avarta chol peter rechem l'Hashem v'chol peter shegem behema v'chulei. We see Gzeira Shava. So that's how from Meiser to the world of Bechor. We know Bechor, you're not allowed to bring its Tmura. And from the Gzeira Shava of Evra, we also know, therefore, by Meiser. What about Pesach? How does Rabbi Shmuel, who learns the pasuk of Bechor exclusively as Bechor, And now we proved already through Gzeira Shava that Meiser has the same halacha of Bechor, that its Tmura cannot be brought. How do we know the same thing is true by Meiser? So it says the Gemara, Pesach Beja Ksibe. It says Keseb. Matam Lomar Im Keseb. It's an extra word. So from that extra word of Im, the Rabbos Tmura Pesach Achra Pesach Shetikrav Shlamim. That if you have a Korban Pesach that's a Tmura, it's not brought as a regular Korban Pesach. It's brought as a different Korban, just regular Shlamim. You messed it up. You can't bring it as a Korban Pesach. Maybe the same halacha should be that it's brought that way before Pesach. That no, only a regular Korban Pesach can be brought, but a Tmura cannot be brought at all. So again, these last two sections of Gemara were really just to analyze this machlokes tanaim between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Yossi Aglili. That Rabbi Shmuel held that the pasuk of Ach Bechor was only talking about Bechor, and the sheet of Rabbi Yossi Aglili is that no, because that pasuk was speaking broadly with Chelbam and Damam, the plural aspects of the pasuk indicate that the pasuk's not only talking about Bechor, but it's also talking about Meiser and Pesach, with the nafkaminas of these two sugyas that we just read. Says the Gemara about halfway down, we'll wait 1 second. V'chol hanach tnoi, tanoe, demafkile, lahai, dam zvachecha yishafech, l'drasha achrina. According to the other brisas that we just saw, Rabbi Shmuel, not Rabbi Shmuel, but we saw Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Yossi Aglili, whoever they are, who say that dam zvachecha yishafech is in fact used for something else, so then we have a problem. If you'll recall where we started today, we were wondering how the din of the Mishnah of Beis Shammai could be that if you only do one zrika, you get kapara. The Gemara said, "V'dam zvachecha yishafech." The Gemara says, yeah, but there are other Tanaim who say that pasuk is busy for other things. Those Tanaim who say the pasuk is busy, how do they know that one sprinkle counts? So says the Gemara as follows. I didn't even read the whole question. Says the Gemara, hi, this line of our Mishnah of Kol Hanistin al Mizbeach Achitzon Shenastam Aton Achas Shekip Aminalahu. They can't learn the pasuk of Dan Zevachim Yishafech. They hold respectively whatever they hold, that those psukim are used for other things. So says the Gemara, as we get to the two dots here, Savrei Lehu. They hold these Tanaim who disagree with Beis Shammai in regards to the source, but they agree that one zrika counts. Where do they learn from? They hold like Beis Hillel Svara, Da'amre, Avchatas Shenasna Maton Achas Kiper V'Yalfek Kulu Michatas. We haven't learned this yet, but we learned it in the Mishnah, but not in the Lamdos, is that Beis Shammai holds that even a chatas is yotze with one zrika, and therefore everything else is learned from zrika. We don't have the Mari Mukomos yet because we didn't learn it, but they don't need V'dam Zvachecha Yishafech because they learn from the upcoming looming Mari Mukomos around the chatas. So our Mishnah had said V'achata shtei matanos. This was the shita as well of Beis Shammai. It was the second din that he said. Uvechata shtei matanos means that there are a minimum of 2 zrikos that are required for a chatas. If I bring a regular korban, a korban pesach, whatever, 1 zrika counts b'di'eved. According to the Tanakama, Beis Shammai, 2 zrikos for a chatas, and Beis Hillel holds only 1 zrika for a chatas. We're going to analyze this machlokes. Let's just keep things super clear. How many zrikos do we need at a minimum, b'di'eved, for a chatas? Beis Shammai says 2 zrikos, Beis Hillel says 1. What are the sources that support that? Just going to say before we start, yes, we're going to read the drashos, and no, I don't understand how it works, because this does not, my brain doesn't, I don't know. Something.
A very quick question. Just
Yes.
the wording on the end of lesson is a little bit tough.
Yes.
They're saying that the Yalfinan from Chatas.
Yes.
Beis Hillel says Af Chatas, which implies that it's like even Chatas, so it's one is okay.
That's correct.
The Af part is a little weird, right?
Why?
Because if the source is Chatas, then it's not even Chatas.
No. That's the language of the Mishnah. Because he's fighting against what Beis Shammai said. Beis Shammai said Uvechata shtei matanos, and he said no, Af Chatas is 1. They were in the Beis Medrash yelling at each other, even though they were not in the Beis Medrash yelling.
Said Chatas 1, Kol Shekain, like the Af just seems a little.
Oh, it doesn't bother me. No. Because what Beis Shammai said was Uvechata shtei matanos. Beis Shammai said all korbanos are 1, but Chatas is 2. Beis Shammai looks at him, and Beis Hillel is like Af Chatas.
Okay.
You were right the first time. Stop changing your opinion. That's how I understood it. I don't. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but that's what it sounds like to me. So 2/3 of the way down on Lamed Zayin Amud Beis. Let's understand the Mari Makomos behind this machlokas between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. That Beis Shammai holds that by chatas you need 2 zrikos, and Beis Hillel holds you need 1. So says the Gemara, Amar Rav Huna, my time of the Beis Shammai, because karnos, hare kan sheish. Right? These 3 words, kranos, I should say, the corners of the mizbeach. So it's plural. So 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6, hare kan sheish. And this is the part that I don't understand. Arba of those 6 are lemitzvah. That's lechatchila. Ushtayim le'akev. How did he know?
No, the mitzvah means additional.
No. 4 is lechatchila, but 2 of those 4 is la'akev. We have a 6 count. That's how he's learning this.
4 are preferable to our
Li-
absolute.
Lechatchila and b'diavad. 4 is lechatchila. Shtayim shehein arba. Yeah, that's what I meant. 4 is the number that we aim for. 6 is not a real number.
Yeah, you don't have 6 corners.
You don't have 6 corners, right? So 4 corners, you get a gold sticker,
Minimum.
but minimum of 2. So when it says 6, and again, I don't understand, why did he say 4 and 2? Why didn't he say 3 and 3? Why didn't he say 1 and 5? I have no idea. That part I don't understand. Rishonim, I don't understand. I don't know. But he says that, obviously that of the 6, 4 of them are lechatchila. I mean, I know why he didn't say 5. There aren't 5 corners. I guess I know why he said 4 now, because there's 4 corners. But still, the drashas, we're learning dine de oraisa liikuva from this drasha, that it's 4 corners is lechatchila, and 2 of those 4 corners, not 2 of those sprinkles is b'diavad.
I mean, Rashi
What?
Anytime we repeat something, that's the ikuba, right? So if we have 4, and then Terry's saying that 2,
Right.
means 2 have to be.
That's the, if you look.
2 of the 4 are required.
Right, but when Terry repeats something, it's to stop it, make it the ikuba. So it's repeated kindness twice. There's an extra 2 that have to be done, or really 2 of those 4 that have to be done the ikuba.
Original.
So then now.
I'm very confused. I don't know what you're saying. Sorry. Try again.
What's not gave?
No, but that's not what it says. It says count 2 plus 2 plus 2.
That's correct.
It's 6.
It's not the way.
I agree with you.
Yeah, it's not the way.
Rekam sheish, right? 2 plus 2 plus 2 is 6.
Yeah.
Then is that hal arba?
Right.
6 words, only 4. The hashtayim yiseros, we have 2 extras. Lo nemru ella sheshona aleha kasu la'akev.
Okay.
Because it's an absolute chiyuv. I don't get the drasha.
I don't get the drush. Yeah. Right. That's what I'm saying. That I'm limited in the methodology. I'm limited in the methodology. I understand what he's saying. I am limited in.
Terry says do another 2.
It doesn't say do another 2.
Yes, it does. It's saying 6 corners.
It's counting the plural of the words chronos.
6 mentions of care.
Correct.
1, 2, 3, 4 are nice. When Terry says now do 2 more.
That's not what it's saying.
It's just saying 2 more corners. What we're saying is those 2 corners now become equal, which are
2 of the corners are 2 of the zrikos are leikuva.
2 of 4.
It could be you're saying the same thing. It could actually be you're saying the same thing. The way Rashi writes it is.
Rashi's not saying.
I'm almost like repeating, going around the.
Right, I think they're saying the 2 of them better than the 4. Right?
2 is everyone's saying that there are not 6 corners. He's saying that too, but he's giving a svara that the first chronos is leikuva, the second 2 are lechatchila, or something like that. I don't know if they're... Okay, all of this is Beis Shammai. We have chronos, 6 of the 6. There's only 4 corners. Lechatchila do 4, b'diavad do 2. Ubeis Hillel, there's no vavs in 2 of the chronos. Karnas, chronos. We're going to discuss that in 2 minutes. Listen, Shasian, everybody relax about how much you know, okay? Just relax, Stan Gertz. Relax.
Brought to you by Kidney.
Seriously. It absolutely was, by the way. And this happens in Shas a lot. We see not a lot, but we see these kinds of drashas about yesh aim lemikra, yesh aim lemasoros. We see them a lot. So we're going to discuss that in a minute because that sukkah there was how many walls do we need for a sukkah. So there's a very big nuance here. This is already complicated. There's a nuance that I've never heard of that we're about to learn, which would make sukkah need 5 walls. So we'll discuss that in a minute. So it ends up being 2 1/4, 2 and an amma. 2 and a tefach. It's 2 and a tefach or 3 and a tefach. Yeah, correct.
One is for one is for, and you don't see that here.
Right, that's what I was saying. Kronos, the first one should be
You don't see that here, which is interesting.
Right.
Unless it's like Rabbi Chin saying that one of the words, but Rashi didn't phrase it that way.
The different thing in the son about Sarah is not telling you to build a mizbeach with corners. That's in a different puzzle. Right. In Vayakil. Right?
That's fair. That's a fair argument.
That's probably why.
But
only talking about sprinkling of the existing corners, you don't really need it.
Right.
Okay, so Kronos is 6, Arba is lemitzvah lechatchila, and Shtaim is lakit. Beis Hillel, yesh aim lemikra, yesh aim lemasoras. He's like, I'm looking at the letters. You're reading it with a vav. I get it. I understand. That's how you read. But yesh aim, look at the psukim. Yesh aim lemasoras, karnas, Kronos. So 1, 1, 2. Harekan Arba. Sholosh lemitzvah. 3 of them are lechatchila, va'achas la'akev. This wild, no?
Well, first of all, I didn't realize that it was one chaser because
It's chaser.
in my Gemara, it's
It's got a vav in it, and we just don't know Tanakh. But it's like
Our nose can't be la'akev because that's a pair, and he's saying only one. So it has to be one of the chrono, one of the first 2 is the kula.
That's right. Then the Gemara asks a bit of a klutz kasha. The Gemara says, "Be'ema kul hu mitzvah." If we're up to 4, why don't you just say that all 4 are lechatchila? And if you don't do 4, then great. Says Gemara, you can't say that because if you say that all 4 are lechatchila and b'diavad you do 0, that doesn't work. So the Gemara says, "Kapara bechdi lo ashkechan." Kapara with nothing. That's it. You can't say that. At least one has to be le'ikuva. Now we have an answer to our Mishnah. The reason why Beis Shammai said that a chatos is shtayim is because of the 6, 4 are lechatchila and 2 are b'diavad. 2, that's what he said. And according to Beis Hillel, we had karnas, Kronos is 4, 3 are lechatchila and 1 is le'ikuva. That's how we get to their shitas. The Ibaisema, another possibility in explaining Beis Hillel as to why he says 1 is Hainu Taima de Beis Hillel, and this is new. I don't believe we've seen this in Shas before. Ahani Mikra ve'ahani Masores. There's actually a blend of Yesh Aim LaMikra and Yesh Aim LaMasores. Buckle up. I've never seen this before. Ahani Mikra Litfu Yechada. Really, Beis Hillel says that I'm going to take one of my karnas, but because of Yesh Aim Lemikra, because I read it that way, one of my 2 karnases, I'm going to double it Tfu Yechada. Ve'ahani Mesores Lemitzur Echada. So I have 2 singular words, karnas, and 1 double word. The double word for sure means 2, karnos, plural. But the 2 karnas words, 1 is doubled now, because sometimes we have Yesh Aim Lemikra, and we also have Yesh Aim Lemasor. So it's really 1 karnas, which is 2. 1 karnas, which is 1, and Kronos, which is 2, which is 5. 4 are lechatchila, and 1 is le'ikuva. One way or the other, the conclusion is the same. But what he's showing us is that we're not so categorical about yesh aim lemikra, yesh aim lemasoras. You can live in both worlds. So you have to know how to, you can dance at both weddings. If that's true, we're in big trouble.
Isn't that Beis Shammai just threw a slightly different language, right? Because Beis Shammai said 4 really is hatchila, and
the numbers are the same. The numbers are the same, but the methodology is not the same. He did 6 is 4 and 2. This is 4. It's 5, which is 4 and 1. But more importantly, the methodology is different. Because Beis Hillel held Yesh Aim Lemikra. That's why he read all of the singular looking words as plural. Kronos. They were not written with vavs. Beis Hillel said, one of my singular words, I'll treat it as Yesh Aim Lemikra. The other of my singular words, I'll treat it as Yesh Aim Lemesores. And Kronos plural, what can I do? So the methodologies are different. Elameata, if this idea of ahani masores and ahani mikra, this living in both worlds, if that's true, elameata litotefes harekan arba. Well, according to the basic math, two singular words and one plural, 1 + 1 + 2 is 4. That's great. But if we take Beis Hillel's ahani krav ahani masores, chamisha bate boy lemevad, then maybe on our batim we need 5 parshios and not 4. Because if you say what Beis Hillel said just a moment ago, one totefes gets doubled because yesh aim lemikra, 2. One totefes remains singular because yesh aim lemasores, and one word says totafos, 5 batim. According to Beis Hillel's methodology, we need to find another parsha, which doesn't exist, that says ukshartam leos al yodecha v'ilu totafos beinenecha. Kashyam. So it says the Gemara, don't worry. Savarlok Rabbi Akiva. He holds like Rabbi Akiva. Beis Hillel seemingly holds like Rabbi Akiva. The Amar Tat Bekatvi Shtaim. The word Tat from Totafos, right? It's a notricon, a broken up word. Those 2 letters, the word Tat in the language of Katvi is 2, and Fot Be'afriki is Shtaim, and therefore that overrides the methodology of Ahani Mikra, Ahani Misor. Don't ask me why, because I don't know why, but that's what the Gemara says. We see this Gemara in Brachos. What's far?
I've never understood.
I still don't understand the language part.
We needed it to override the count.
Why isn't the Torah? Why is the Torah?
They are. It's teaching children.
What'd you say?
You're picking random languages out of.
That's what bothers me.
It's always bothered me.
It still bothers me even with your svara. Yeah. I hear you. There's more of a motivator. Yeah. I hear what you're saying. I do. Yeah. So that solves that problem. Comes along Stan's question. Elameata, bisukas singular 1, bisukas singular 2, bisukos double 4 walls. If you say ahani mikra v'ahani misores, then one of your singulars, basukas, we double because yesh aim lemikra, that's 2. The second, bisukas, is 1 because yesh aim lemisores. And then the last word is plural, which is 5, chamisha dafnasa boilemevad. What is that? A pentagon is what we would call that. So our sukkahs need to be pentagons. So says the Gemara, don't worry. Top of Lamed Ches Amud Aleph, we're heading to a little bit more than halfway down. We'll be a little bit past 9:30. The Gemara says, Hasam chad kara kule legufe. Chad kra, one of the psukim of Sukkos, we actually need to teach us the mitzvah of Sukkah. So what's left? That was 5. Now we're down to 4. So meaning we believe in Ahani Mikra and Ahani Masores. Beis Hillel's right. And we have 5 references to Sukkah. You're correct. -1 to teach me that we have a din of Sukkah. What? It's itself that we have a din of Sukkah. V'chad l'schacha to teach me that we need schach. 5 - 2 is 3. Asoy hilchasa, we have halacha l'moshe misin. V'gara sad l'shlishis v'ukimta atefach. Unbelievable. The Gemara in Bracha in Sukkah doesn't say this. I don't believe. It does say this. 5 - 3? 5 - 2? Yeah, I'm saying this rationale of Ahani Mikra, Ahani. But here we have a greater nuance because we're engaging Beis Hillel to say that when it says basukas, basukas, basukos, which looks like 4, but when you employ Ahani Mikra, Ahani Mesores, it's 5. -1 to teach me the din of Sukkah is 4. -1 to teach me the din of Schach is 3. And then halacha l'moshe misinai to make that third wall into a tefach. Until this morning, I never knew this. This is a chiddush to me. And there's still a machlokas rishonim, by the way, even halacha l'maisa, by the Sfardim, they hold you need 3 in a tefach. I think they hold the maisa that way. Any Sfardim in the room? No. But that's what the Gemara says. Fascinating Gemara. Just fascinating. All right. Math cup? We're not done. You can go to Marv if you need, but we're are you in our WhatsApp group? I did text her. Okay, just making sure you know. Okay. Yeah, I'm insulted, but don't worry about it. So says the Gemara, Elameata, let's talk about Tuma, because that always makes things easy. Says the Gemara, The tama'ah shvu'ayim. When a woman has a baby, she can, depending on the gender, she'll become tmeya for 2 weeks. But how is it written? Shivim. Could you imagine how different that would be? Right? She'd become tmeya for 70 days. If you say ahani kra ve'ahani mesores, if you give some credence to the kra, which is shvu'ayim, that's how we read it, and if you give some credence to mesores, then we have to split the difference. Arbaim utrain boilam esav. How do we get to 42? Follow the rabbit hole.
70 plus 14. Two.
Close. 70 minus 14 is 56. Half of those extra 56 days is 28. So that's half of the 70 plus 14 is 42. So that's how Rashi explains all the math. Yesh aim lemikra, ahani mesores. Maybe she should sit 42 days of tuma. I didn't make this up. I just say Rashi. Look at Rashi, 5 lines down. Neimanami ahani mesores litfuye palga de tosefes shivim al shvuayim. Give me half back on the extra beyond the 14. V'hani mikra livtzure palga nimses mosif al shvuayim kafches, which is ches yoshel nunvav. And therefore, half of the difference of 70 minus 14 is 56. Half is 28, because the difference 70 minus 14 is 56. Half is 28. Ahani kra, ahani palga, ahani mesora. Add the 14 back, 42. The Gemara says, no, shiny hasam, dichsiv kinidasa. We need the word shvu'ayim to be read in a way that's relevant to a nida. How long is a nida tmeya midoraisa? 1 week. Therefore, the word shvu'ayim has to be a week word. By the way, shivim is 10 weeks. But it's not a week word. It's a number. It's not a week word. Therefore, it has to be read as shvu'ayim. And that's the reason why she's only tmeya for 14 days. Says the Gemara, Vitana, and Rashi over here says 20 lines down, Vitana demas nisan delo maisi lahadebes hillel kiravhuna elamehacha. There's another source to teach us this then. Vitana maisi lamehacha v'chiper. We need a drasha. I needed a drasha b'pnei adin because I would have had a rationale the other way. I needed this drasha. Says the Gemara, why would you need a rationale the other way? I'll show you what the halacha of Zrika would have been without a drasha. Sheyachol v'halo dinu. I can give you a very rational reason as to why we would say you're yotze one Zrika even without a drasha. Says the Gemara, ne'emru damim lamata v'ne'emru damim lamala. We have blood below the chut sikra and blood above. Ma matan damim ha'amurim lamata shenistan b'matana achas kiper. Just like if one does the damim below the chut sikra, 1 sprinkle works. I don't need any psukim. I have the ma. I have a little hekesh. I have a little kal v'chomer. Leave me alone. I don't need any psukim. Says the Brisa, well, it's not so simple because I could have given you a totally different svara that would have worked in totally the wrong direction, and that's why you need a pasuk. What would the other option have been? We know that we have bloods that are brought on the inner mizbeach, and we have bloods on the outer mizbeach. Unlike the outer mizbeach, which was the topic of our Mishnah on Lamed Vava Mibez, only there do we have the kula of 1 sprinkle works. But madamim hamurim bifnim, when it comes to the bloods on the inside, chiser achas min hamatanos lo asav lo klum. On the Mizbech HaPnimi, you can't skip any Zrikos. So maybe I should compare to there, and therefore, Af damim ha'amurim bachutz chiser achas min hamatanos lo asav lo klum. You thought it was so pasha. We don't need the psukim at all. I'll give you a svara. What's the svara? That above, lamata, lamala, 1 Zrika is enough. No! Maybe I would have made another comparison that the outside Mizbeach is like the inside Mizbeach. And just like by the Mizbeach HaPnimi, if you skip 1 Zrika, you're done for. 0 kapara, so too on the outside. So then the Brisa says, Nira lemidome. Which case is more similar to learn from? The case of lamata and lamala, or the case of pnim and chutz? So says the Gemara, well, maybe either of them are rational. Maybe we should say done in chutz mi chutz, ve'ein done in chutz mi bifnim. Maybe we should say, I'd rather learn about Lamata and Lamala, which was on the outside Mizbeach, where they had the line of the Chut HaSikra. Chutz and Chutz. I'm talking about Chutz. I should learn from Chutz. O Klach L'derech Zu. Perhaps we should learn it from another aspect that is common to the Mizbeach HaPnimi and the Mizbeach HaChitzoni. Maybe we should say done in Chatas the Arba Kronos, Mechatas the Arba Kronos. The Chatas that has the four corners from the Chatas that has the four corners and the Pnimi. Right? We have Chatas in both places. The Al Yochi Achutz Shein Chatas the Arba Kronos. We should really only learn this Li'ikuva din from the Pnimi, because only on the inside of the Mizbech is it Ma'akev. Because there's two possible svaras, we therefore need a pasuk. Talmud Lomar, v'chiper, v'chiper, v'chiper. Look at this drasha, and with this we'll close. V'chiper, afal pi shelo nasan ela shalosh. You're still kosher, even if you only did 3 out of the 4. Again, Mizbeach HaChitzoni, because we know Mizbeach HaPnimi you're not allowed to skip. V'chiper afal pi shelo nasan ela shtayim. You need a pasuk to teach me that even if you only did 2, you're still good to go. And v'chiper afal pi shelo nasan ela achas. And this is the second possible Mari Makom to teach us that 1 sprinkle is considered to be sufficient. I know you so well at this point. I do not know the answer to your question. That's fair. I have no idea. I have a feeling, maybe I Tosfos, I didn't look, but it could well be that he deals with this. It seems so obvious to me that this was unnecessary. Jumps off the page. I didn't look into it because I didn't have time. Okay, we're going to stop right here, 2/3 of the way down at V'haimi Boile Legufe, and Emir Tashem on Shabbos we'll get to learn maybe even two blot, maybe even catch up. Let's see, Friday's Mem, and then Shabbos is Mem Aleph. I don't think we'll get quite that far, but we'll move as far as we can. We'll pause right here, wishing you all a beautiful night.